Hey, it's great to be here. I love driving out to see you guys. Interstate 70 is very quickly becoming my absolute favorite road to drive on. Just the anticipation of being in Kansas City with all of you is great. So it's wonderful to be here tonight, and we will go ahead and get started. So I'm wondering, do we have people here who have taken exams at school? Grade school, middle school, high school, college, any of those exams. I've taken a fair number of exams in my life, test exams, quizzes, and one of the things that took me a long time to figure out was to check your work, right? Have you ever had this experience? You're taking a quiz, you're taking a test, and you get out of the exam and you think to yourself, nailed it! And you get the grade back and it's like an 82. You're like, what happened? And you're going through and there's a question. It says 7 plus 3 and you 7. And you realize like, I should have looked over that again. I should have double checked it. I should have made sure that my work was right, because the reality is that when you're taking an exam, 37 might get you quality points on the dyslexia scale. Or something like that. But the reality is that the closer your answers are to the teacher's guide, right? The closer that you are to her answers, the better that you're going to do, the better that your exam is going to end up for you. And so double checking was a painful lesson for me through school. I'm sure many of you figured out, second or third grade, check your work. I was in grad school before that thing really clicked in for me. But as we look in our passage this week, we saw a lot of people that had plans. They had some ideas, and they definitely needed to have somebody check their work. I'm sure if Amnon had gone to somebody and said, hey, I'm thinking about raping my sister, someone might have been, hey man, let's think about that, right? The one guy that he went to was maybe a bad choice. But the reality is that we don't necessarily need someone else in our community. I mean, you can have someone else, a close friend, double check your plan. But the reality is that if we make plans, if we have an agenda in our lives, the more that is aligned with God and His will, the more likely it's going to be to succeed. And as we look at our lesson this week, I think that's what we can learn. We can see that the things in our lives that are going to stay with us, that are going to persist, the times when we are going to be successful, truly successful, is when our plans are lined up with God and His character and His plans. So let's look at some of these plans that some of these men had, and we can sort of think about how they went. We're in 2 Samuel. We're in chapters 13 through 14. And this first part is Amnon rapes Tamar, and Absalom ends up taking revenge on Amnon. So grab your Bibles, get them out, turn them on. My Bible's finally starting to naturally open up to 2 Samuel. Is anybody else experiencing that? It's kind of the binding is getting used to the idea. So this is, we're taking a look at David's family. We had this great promise that God made back in chapter 7 that David's family was going to have an eternal kingdom. It was going to go on forever. And so the question in our minds is, well, which of David's sons is going to carry on or take the first step in establishing this legacy? And so we're going to look at the eldest first, Amnon. Amnon is David's eldest son. And we read right away that Amnon, and then Absalom says, well, I'm going to take care of this my way. And the right justice for Amnon is that he would be killed. Above the punishments that were outlined in the Mosaic Law, again, it's not totally clear how the people of Israel would have rendered judgment on this. But at minimum, there would have been some amount of cutting off. Amnon would have been cast out of the community. But Absalom decides this isn't enough. And so again, there's deception. David is involved in deception. And the goal is Absalom wants to get Amnon alone. And not because he wants to sexually abuse him, but he wants to kill him. And he has a plan. He involves a servant, like a cat chasing a laser pointer. It seems really exciting. The cat can be really excited about the laser pointer, and they'll run around and they'll try to grab it. and the cat can't get a hold of it. It's just light. And even though there's this exciting pursuit, there's no satisfaction at the end when we pursue things that we can see with our eyes, whether it's wealth or it's money, whether it's sexual relationships, whatever it is. When we pursue what we can see, we don't study the Bible. BSF helps me as I learn about him. I am filled with the light of Christ by studying his word. And how have you experienced? You've been in BSF. And as God fills us with his light, sometimes we realize that there are other things that we've been looking at, that we've been focusing on, that really are dark. That there is darkness that is found in the, as you've been filled with the light of God. What are some areas of your heart and of your life that you realize are perhaps a little bit darker than maybe you would like? Let's go on. We're going to look at the continuing story of Absalom in chapters 15 through 18.